I am KP Georgia, Fort Bend County Church. This is a very special moment, and we are here to celebrate a soul, a special person. Because of him, I am, and many of us standing here because of him. Very simple, very simple. Sometimes as a leader, we make certain decisions, we have no idea how far that can go. Willie Melton's life is an example, and he made that decision. Today, we have so many elected officials, and I tell you this, we are celebrating Black History Month in Fort Bend County, and we are celebrating our elected officials and first-time elected officials, and so on and so forth. On Commissioner's Court, we could do it 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that means we have so many African American elected officials, which is a good problem to have. And so we came a long way in Fort Bend County, the most diverse county in the country, according to Kinder Institute. I'm so proud to stand in front of you, and I'm so honored to stand with the family of Willie Melton to celebrate. And today, as you all know, we are renaming our law library's name after this great man, and rightfully so. And we are joined by so many dignitaries and elected officials from our community leaders, and some of our people in attendance are people who flew in from other states, and actually I'm honored to have Franklin Melton here today, flew in from California, and other family members, and I'm not going to go into the naming because I know that I'm going to mess it up, so I just don't want to do that. Maybe sir, you could do that to recognize them. But I just wanted to say, what an honor. And you all know that in the 1900 he was born in today's city of Kendleton, that area, one of the freedmen's town in Texas, settled by the previously enslaved people who were emancipated after the Civil War. And by early 1950, Mr. Melton became a very successful farmer and a rich African-American man and an activist in Kendleton. And Kendleton, you know, we started visiting as soon as I came into office, with a rich history of African-American history and Fort Bend history, you know, and so we started visiting, and this is another example of what Kendleton has to offer to our community and our culture. He, along with other African-American residents, legally challenged, you all know the history. I'm not going to get into all the specific details, you all know the history, but he challenged the white-only primary in Fort Bend County, along with Arizona Fleming and other strong people. You have to understand, though. You have to understand how we got there. And you have to understand the Jaybird Woodpecker War. And they killed people who resisted. And you have to understand how we got there. You got to have courage. And I heard that he had been advised, don't do it. And because he'd been told he's going to get killed. But he stood up. And he stood up because we all could stand here today. And that's a change. And that's, we call shaking the tree, I guess. And so that's a change he brought it to our community, and it needs to be celebrated. And so I am so honored to be part of all this discussion. And obviously I cannot, you know, I always say that I'm not born and raised here. I got here as quick as I can. And so wanted to be part of all this discussion. And Willie Melton may not be a household name. We talk about it every single day. But let me tell you, without his effort, I will repeat, I said this before, without his effort and of Arizona Fleming and many other African-American leaders, I said this before, I'm repeating, we wouldn't be standing here today. And that is the impact he created in our community. And I just wanted to ask some of our African American elected leaders and others in our community joining us today and to share their thoughts. And that's what I like to hear. And I wanted to start with our state representative for District 27, Ron Reynolds, to share a few words. Ron, please try.
Thank you, Judge George. I really appreciate your leadership, and I'm so happy that I can publicly share. This is like you're in church, you give a testimony. This is a testimony. I didn't know Willie Melton. I didn't know Arizona Fleming, but I am a proud product of their sacrifice as the first African American elected state representative in Fort Bend County since Reconstruction. You know, there was Walter Moses Burton, and then there was nobody. There was nobody because we had whites-only primaries in Fort Bend County. And that was a real paradigm shift when they stood up. And as Judge George stated, they made tremendous sacrifices. They made, in the words of John Lewis, good trouble. They were on the right side of history. And think about it. During those times, they could have been lynched. They could have been beaten. They could have been hung, like other freedom fighters were during those tumultuous times. They talked about the Judge George, he talked about the Jaybird Woodpecker War. Well, they risked their lives so that we could have an end of the Jim Crow voter suppression efforts that prevented African Americans from voting. And I wouldn't be where I am today. I stand on his shoulders. I literally stand on his shoulders. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today. Arizona Fleming, I wish I could thank them, but I believe truly as a man of faith that they're smiling from heaven. We are all the descendants of the benefactors of their sacrifice. There would be no Brian Middleton as district attorney, no Bridget Smith lawsuit. There would be none of us if they didn't make those sacrifices. So I'm here today just to say I'm so grateful for their sacrifices during Black History Month. Ever since I was first elected, I knew and I read my history. And I know that I'm the proud benefactor of their great sacrifice. So I just want to say thank you to the family as a proud product of their great sacrifice. Far too often we thank, the John Lewises and the Rosa Parks and the Martin Luther Kings. But I'm here today to publicly thank, your great ancestor whose shoulders I stand on, who we stand on today. Yes. So thank you, Judge George and the Commissioner's Court for the renaming, because Fort Bend County is forever changed because of their great sacrifice, their courage. They're being willing to be on the right side of history and speak truth to power. Their willingness to pay it forward. And it's up to us to continue to pay it forward because voter suppression and Jim Crow is still alive because of the false narratives of voter fraud by former President Donald Trump. But today is about celebrating him and his leadership. And so I'm forever grateful. So thank you so much publicly. Thank you, Judge George. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, I just wanted to say, it is, I see that people coming from Caucasian background in this crowd. And injustice need to be recognized, and history need to be taught. And thank you for being here, and I appreciate you for being here. When anytime in the history we see injustice, it needs to be taught so that we don't make the same mistake. We all know that. And so as Ron just rightfully mentioned, we elected in 2018 the first African American district attorney in Fort Bend County, Brian Middleton, and a good friend of mine, and under his watch, Fort Bend County justice system is a better one than before. And I wanted to invite Brian Middleton, please come forward and say a few words.
I will be brief, which is not justice to Willie Melton. He was a wealthy man, a wealthy black man, who could have done a lot of things with his wealth. He could have been completely selfish, but he sacrificed his wealth for humanity. Yes. He fought a war against bigotry, and he won. Yes. And I benefited from that. And so it's incumbent upon us as leaders to pay that forward, to make sure not just to become elected, but to break down the racial stereotypes about what black leadership means.
Yes.
That's the only way we can repay him. Is to show the community that we are worthy.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Melton, and your family, your descendants, for all that you've done to make this possible, for this room and this hallway to be colorful.
Oh, yeah.
And I can tell you, I intend to pay it forward. Thank you.
Indeed, indeed. Is our tax assessor collector Carmen Turner here? Okay. And Mayor Humphrey, please come forward. Mayor of City of Kendallton.
Good evening, everyone. It's like I'm at a family reunion because I was born around and raised with all these folks right here. Some I'm related to, some of them I'm related to through Mr. the Meltons here, you know, Kenyon. One day away from Daytree's birthday. I'm on the 27th, she's 28, so we've been around each other all our lives. And you know, coming up as a young black man in Kendallton, not really knowing the magnitude of what Mr. Willie Melton, Miss Arizona Flemings, and others has done to pave the way for us. And sometimes you just take it lightly until you get a little bit older, you get a little bit more mature to really think and read about what they've done and how it impacted our lives to be able to do what we're doing today. Like Mr. Middleton and all the rest of them that we're talking about here, even Judge here, it's what he done a long time ago. We didn't see this coming today. But now that you can sit back and see how he got here, it's all because of things like what Mr. Melton did back in the day. I'm living right there in the town and not knowing what's really going on. Even my uncle, their dad, the first mayor of Canada, not knowing what these folks were actually doing for us until you get a little bit older and understand it. And now knowing that you're part of the first free slaves to settle in Kendallton, it makes you want to do things more to impact the young kids so they can come back and help build the community up like they started years ago. So I'm here and just to be honored to be around my friends, family, and people I've been knowing all my life, and I know they're so proud of how their grandfather and great-grandfathers and all that had done for them. I know Mr. Franklin going to tell us a whole lot here shortly, and I embrace it because he was actually there to where he actually seen what his dad did and the things he went through. He heard those kitchen table talks, those back porch talks. He heard those things, so now he can basically kind of let us know. And just to coming out, you know, I just say, you know, it would be selfish for me not to reach out to former Mayor Jones just to come out and say a few things because she was there to where she can kind of tell you a few more things that you may not have known of what your family did for us. So if it's okay with you, KP, I'm honored to be here. All the people that had anything to do with this, if it's just one word to make this day happen for Mr. Willie Melton, I think it's a long time coming. And I hope that we keep on looking for those soldiers or those pioneers back in the day that did things, and we can keep bringing them forward to appreciate them also. So if it's okay with you and everyone else, I'd like for Ms. Jones to come up and say a couple of words. God bless you all.
God bless you. Hello again, everybody. I'm not up here to steal anybody's thunder, but anyway, we talked about one of the greatest heroes in Kendallton, one of our first landowners that helped to come in and establish this town we know now as Kendallton. Mr. Melton was part of the first landowners. And we are, some of us here, I'm the fourth generation of the free slaves that was organized after slavery was abolished in 1865. A few years later, then we started settling in the Kendallton area, and then they started developing and establishing a town we know now as Kendallton. I'm like the fourth generation of the free slaves, and come on down, you got four generations, fifth generation. Oh, look at the generations that we got here from Kendallton of the free slaves, all these generations. But anyway, we are here to honor Mr. Melton. I was telling the judge earlier today, when he fought, he come and teamed up with the NAACP, the National NAACP, Mr. Melton did, because he got tired of things going on in Fort Bend County. We being in Fort Bend County tonight and couldn't be a part of the primary. So he stepped out. It always takes one to step out and speak up. He stepped out. He spoke up. He teamed up after he got some men together to help assist him. At that time, they said the men are 60 years and older. They said, I'll step up and help you because if they kill me, it doesn't matter. So that's how he got it started. He got the elder men in town and let us young people be able to live off of the effort and the history that was going on. Kendallton is a very historical town. Mm-hmm. This is a very historical day. Mm-hmm. Also, this is Black History Month. Yeah. So it is befitting. But I bought the story, the J. Bird case. If you want to, this is the fight in this book that was fought for us to be able to vote. And they won this case in the Supreme Court. It says the J. Birds on trial, 1950 to 1953. On trial, and all of this, what they went through is in this book. And then when they went to the Supreme Court, the justice there decided that they had violated the 14th, 15th Amendment rights of the people there in Fort Bend County. So anyway, what they did, they gave us the opportunity to vote, but in the early 60s, I had to pay. They charged us $1.50 to pay the vote. And I paid the vote when I started voting. They let us vote, but then they made us pay until we found out better, and then we didn't have to pay anymore. But this is kind of the story of Mr. Melton, and it's just an honor for me to be a proud of it. I'm a Kendallton Knight, always, and then I serve, as one of the mayors and I'm the second Black female mayor of Fort Bend County. Yeah, so that made it a history too. Yeah. So anyway, have any questions for me, if you need some answers about the trial or whatever, this is the fight that was fought. And we are here today to honor that win. Hey. We want to teach these generations, teach them the history. They need to know the history. Yes. If they learn better, they can do better. Yes. Come on. They don't have to run around and try to be nobody else. Yes. Be yourself. Yeah, because we got a great history. We very historical. If y'all let me know. So I turned it over to the Mills and family. But anything you need from me, let me know. Thank you, Mayor.
Can we have some love for this? People think about it. To exercise your constitutional right, paying $1.50. That's a lot of money back then too. And I just wanted to invite, and also you don't pay $1.50. And there is an election going on right now, and you should go out and vote. By the way, but of course, when you vote, things happen. And we elected in 2020 the first African-American female as Fort Bend County attorney. Yes. And I wanted to invite Bridget Ms. Lawson to say
Good afternoon, everyone. It is indeed a blessing to be here. Speaking of Kendallton, I am married to a Kendalltonite, descendants of Rogers and Kimmy Lawson. So Kendallton is near to my heart. And speaking of the J. Bird Monument, I can tell you I was probably the only person standing here that witnessed the dismantling of that monument. And the emotions that I felt sitting there at about 2 a.m. seeing it come down was a moment that I cannot put in words right now. But I can tell you this, Fort Bend has changed, and it is still changing and changing for the good. Thank you, Mr. Melton and his descendants for breaking up the hard ground to let Black people run for office, South Asian people run for office, Hispanic people run for office, all of us to run for office. I am indeed blessed to be here. We are all the better for the efforts of Mr. Melton. Thank you so much.
Another example of when you vote, you could elect right people for office. Our district clerk, Beverly Walker.
Good evening, everyone. And I will be brief, but I would like to thank the judge for inviting me to be a part of this ceremony. It almost brings tears to my eyes because I'm a person who's an avid historian. So it does me well to stand here with the descendants of Mr. Melton, because I know that one time Fort Bend had 2 times, if you read your history, the number of African Americans that it had whites. I believe there were 4,127 African Americans in Fort Bend and about 2,027 whites. So we have always been in Fort Bend since its founding. With the election of us, we're just returning to where we were primarily at first. So thank y'all very much. Thank y'all for letting us have Mr. Melton, because he's made an indelible mark on our history. Thank you so much.
I will ask, Judge, please come forward. Judge Tina Watson.
Thank you. I will be brief as well. I'm an elected judge in Fort Bend County, County Court at 5, and I'm Tina Watson. I just want to say this is American history. This is American history. And it is fitting that the law library in this Texas Justice Center, this Fort Bend Justice Center, is named after someone whose case went to the United States Supreme Court. So I will say, as a former lawyer and now judge, thank you for your sacrifice. Because that is the highest calling, to have a case go to the Supreme Court and win. Amen. Thank you, Melton family.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judge Julie Matthew. I'm the presiding judge of County Court Law Number 3 and the administrative judge for the county courts. It's my pleasure to be here. I am the first Indian American woman elected to the bench in the United States, and that would not be possible for me to sit here on this bench without Mr. Melton's sacrifices and dedication to the cause. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see all of you.
Of course, I wanted to recognize actually our Constable Darrell Smith. Thank you for being here, sir. I just wanted to say, we just may be repeating this. It is important to learn history. Yes. It is important to teach our children history. Why? Because we don't make the same mistake again. I'm sure we all heard this many, many times. And I tell you this, it's an honor and privilege to invite a man grew up with Mr. Melton, Mr. Melton, and a man can call him dad. And so Franklin Melton, he actually flew in for this moment from out of state, from California, right? So thank you for doing that. And I will ask, I'm sure for the family it is a very special moment. For all of us it is a very special moment. Please come forward and share your thoughts. Please.
Well, I've been in California since 1957.
It's time to move back.
And I still talk slow like I just got there from Texas. So I don't know if I can have a few words. It's going to be a few words.
Please take your time. Please take your time.
When I found out I had to say something, I just picked up a piece of paper and started scribbling down something. Because you don't know, you know so much, so how do you make a presentation? So I start with personal accomplishments before the case. Okay, my father was a farmer, but he wasn't an average farmer. He raised turkeys by the thousands, but they was not average turkeys. The people of that day, you know, Birdseye, Swift, and all these places that freezes the food so you can go get them out the freezer. You got your turkeys live on the feet. So the ladies knew how to grade turkeys. They knew that if they touched the turkey's breast, if it's sharp, that is not a good turkey. That turkey is not really good. You want a turkey that's got a broad breast. So my father working with the county agent, was able to produce a hybrid turkey called the baby beef bronze. If you raise the baby beef bronze, you're guaranteed to please the ladies. So during Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Easter was the days that everybody went out to get their turkeys. And so my father would deliver the baby beef bronze. And that was a big hit. But he didn't stop with the turkeys. He also was an outstanding corn. Everybody think about up in Nebraska, the corn belt. The corn belt corns that was produced couldn't match the corn that my father raised, because he found out that there was a fertilizer called anhydrous ammonia that Billy saw Esther was pushing out of Pecos Canyon, okay? And so he was the first one to bring the anhydrous ammonia to this area. And so the corn, instead of having 2 or 3 ears on it, had 4 and 5 ears on the stomach. And that was a great hit. But he didn't stop there. At the time, the farming community was needing supplies. He formed a coalition of buyers that bought out Kilton Mercantile Company, by which he was the president. And that provided everything that an individual needed for the farm. Whether you need gas, kerosene, boots, sweeps for your tractors, and all that stuff. Just go to Kilton Mercantile. But he didn't stop there. He was the king of watermelon. Now, the king of watermelons would not, most people just take the old watermelon and get the seeds out of it and plant it for the next year. No, no, no. My father's seeds was pedigree seeds. He ordered them every year for his watermelon patch. And he was able to negotiate many leases that was able to get him vast quantities of land. And I would have to speak a word called the Hudgens family, who was great cattleman that had many, many, many acres that was spare. And he was in an arrangement with them to lease their lands for watermelon. So he would get up to 1,000 acres of watermelon a year. And the people used to come up from the valley, from Mexico, with the 18-wheelers to load up for watermelon. And the people from Mexico would come up, and they would get their load, they'd take them to market, and they'd come back and pay my father. The honor system was working, okay? Yeah. And also the school kids knew how they could make money for their clothes for school. They just jump on the wagon and go to the watermelon patch and work, and they get the school kids. And so the watermelons was a pedigree also. It was called the Black Diamond. Now the Black Diamond, now the families are smaller, so people don't want the big 60 and 70 pound watermelons anymore. But in that day, the families were larger, so they want the big watermelon. And the Black Diamonds was the watermelon that had a thick rind and was good for shipping. So we used to literally load cargoes on the railroad track full of watermelon. They would ship them all over the United States. Okay, so and so with the notoriety, every year he would send watermelons to the president, no matter who was in office. Wow. You know, it could have been Eisenhower was in there. I'm sorry, folks. Eisenhower. Or whether it's Truman or whoever was in, he'll send a watermelon. And so I think the message there is you got to understand both sides, okay? Yeah. And sometimes we get kind of, so charged up on our side, we forget that there's another side. But my father, and I literally saw him sit down and talk to the other side. So when he worked these cases, when it was all over, I knew a lot of people on the other side broke down and cried. I literally saw them cry. Grown men crying because they was with him. They was with him. Okay. And so he was able to do that. Now I'm going to move on from the watermelon. And I want to talk about triggers. Now he was very successful. Well, why in the world would he get into this? He's working with the surgeons, the surgeons getting land, the farm. Why would he stop doing what he was doing? What was it that would take priority over his achievements? And so And I really don't know the answer to that. But I would pose a couple of items. One rancher on the other side was upset with my father and what he was doing. And he turned all his cattle loose on my father's prime crop of watermelon and destroyed the whole thing. My father never said nothing about that. Never said nothing. I could give you the name of the farmer, but I don't want to do that because maybe you guys may be descendants. So. And so, was that a trigger to cause him to want to get involved? I don't know that. And then there was the we had the situation with there was a little black boy about 10 years old that my father took to the movie. And the lady in the desk, so my father was kind of fascinated. And the lady said, well, no, he's got to go up there to the balcony. Okay. And my father never said anything. Was that a trigger that he defeated this spirit? I don't know the answer to that. Okay. He would, then, that was the case where, who wrote this down? Now, so then he began to get around with all these things happening out there. And so he decided to start making a movie. So he wrote to Price Daniels. Price Daniels was a governor of Texas at that time. So he wrote to Price Daniels, hey, Price Daniels, you got to do something about this. We got to get this voting thing squared away. And what did Price Daniels say to him? Nothing. Never replied, never said nothing. So then my father was active now in the NAACP, both Wharton County and Fort Bend County. So he began to understand that pecking order. And we were lucky enough to have, at this same time in history, we had this beautiful man named Charles Hamilton Houston.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Out of Howard University, a graduate of Harvard Law School. Okay, he was putting together a tremendous program of tutoring lawyers to go out and seek out injustice and fight for it. So alignment came into place. No more watermelon raising and turkeys and all that. Now it's full speed ahead. He got his alignment, and now he get to working. He gets to working, but now you got to raise some money. You can't just go through this system, this legal system, without any money. I don't know how many of these lawyers are going to work pro bono here, but pro bono can only last so much, you know. So you had to raise money. So we had a lot of fundraising. The Freedom Ball was a cornerstone of our money, raising money. Most of my sisters was queen, and the queens was determined by how much money they raised. Okay, not by how good they looked, but my sisters was pretty. I got to say that because over there is Chris Humphrey, my sister's son, who was the first queen. Okay, so we raised the money, we fought the fight. Now he's fighting the fight, and so what we're dealing with here is who was these courageous people? And I would say to you, in my experience, there were a lot of people on both sides that was courageous to bring this out. Even if you read the J. Burris of Fort Bend County, what the secretary wrote down, why would she retain that and put it in writing? See, was she an enemy, or was she on our side to retain that and put it in with church accuracy? And so we know now, we say, okay, now, in order to make a change, you really can't leave people out. You can't talk about people being deplorables and stuff like that. You got to figure out something. How you gonna get down soft? You may think it, but you better not say it. Okay? You got to figure out how to get with these people and understand their side of it. I talk about the difference between a gangbanger and a Ku Klux Klan. I meet a Ku Klux Klan guy, and he'll tell me, I don't know you. And I go talk to the gangbanger, and he say, you don't know me. And so they both got the same problem of knowing each other. So you got to know the other side. And so what I'm saying is, as I reflect on my father's preparation for his work, he was willing to recognize his purpose. And his purpose wasn't raising turkeys. His purpose was not raising corn. His purpose was not raising watermelons. His purpose was to serve. And to you young people, I would say, I would use some in your own, what you might recognize. In the bowl. What a man, what a man, what a man. And I'll leave you with that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for telling the story. And you know, sometimes as leaders, people do certain things without even knowing how things are going to turn out 50 years, 100 years from now. And look what you heard the seeds, what kind of seeds he sowed and where we stand today. And Fort Bend County, then I don't know, in the 50s maybe we had around 30,000 people. And today we have 860 plus thousand people live in Fort Bend County. And the most diverse according to Clinton Institute, with 25 kind of Caucasian, Latinos, African American and Asian population live in Fort Bend County. It is so important. We celebrate our diversity, and also God definitely had a purpose for Willie Melton, because he had come along, now we have a primary where anybody could run for office, and the proof is standing right here I am. And so we have elected officers look like the community, and also we have the freedom to vote and elect who you like to elect. And so it is so important. It is you get out and exercise your right, and as you can see, you heard that so many people sacrificed so much sacrifices to give us that right. And actually, this fight will move on. And I conclude by saying this: 1870, our country thought, it is important for all men to vote. That's going to solve the problem. And so we said, okay, African American men is also going to vote. Then we said, what about our women? So 1920, we said, okay, we are going to fix that problem. And so all of our, not just brothers, sisters are going to vote too. And then we realized that there is so much problem. Then we came to 1965 to fix that problem. Still, our voting system is not good. That's why I fixed our Voting Rights Act and things of that nature. 57 years later, we are talking the same issue. We are talking the same issue. We are walking back. So I hope we all take that close to our heart and go out and exercise our right. And so today is a special day. Today is about Willie Melton. And today I will, and our Commissioners Court announces the Fort Bend County Justice System Law Library is going to be known as Willie Melton Library. And that is sometime a civilized world, that is the least we can do to recognize a great man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the family. Thank you for all of you. We have a proclamation. Yeah, bring that proclamation, and we will conclude this presentation here. And so you wanted to go ahead and read it, please.
From the office of the County Judge, Fort Bend County, Texas. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas today we honor the life and legacy of the late Mr. Willie Melton, who was widely known as an activist, agriculture worker, landowner, and successful entrepreneur. And whereas Mr. Melton was born in Kendleton, Texas in the 1900s, he set out on a journey with a group of African American residents to challenge the system of white-only primaries. His commitment to ensuring that black voters had an opportunity to vote for candidates who looked like them took him all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and put an end to the system of white-only primaries in Fort Bend County. And whereas we celebrate Black History Month, we thank the late Willie Melton for his bravery, courage, and persistence in ending blatantly discriminatory voting practices and making an everlasting change for black residents of Fort Bend County. And now, therefore, KP George, Fort Bend County Judge of Fort Bend County, Texas, do hereby proclaim the 22nd day of February 2022 as Willie Melton Day in observance of Black History Month. And it's incredible.
Please come forward. Please join us. Or you wanted to get there? Okay.